Lighting a way to a cure is lighting a way for hope.
Aloha and welcome to a new season of Rare Disease Hawaii. And we got with us today a good doctor, well known in the community when it comes to natural and holistic healing, and that's Dr. Larry. Hi.
Aloha there.
Also known as Dr. Larry Ward. And what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about rare disease and holistic and natural medicine and how that affects rare disease. So what is a rare disease? Let me tell you. A rare disease is an orphan disease that affects less than 200,000 people in the United States. So that's approximately 7,000 rare diseases according to the National Institute of Health. Now, that's 1 in 10 people. So in Hawaii, with the demographic of our population, that's over 130,000 people affected with a rare disease. And also, currently, there's only, out of those 7,000, there's only 320 that have a FDA-approved medication. So that's real serious, yeah? And only a third of rare disease are in children. So it's real serious because 80% of all rare disease have a genetic or inherited component to it. So that's pretty important why patients often are limited of information for their condition and people face difficulty getting a clear diagnosis. So even with the family component, it's hard to find out when it skips a generation or so. So what are the common challenges facing rare disease patients? Well, let me tell you, them and their families have to do a lot, and this is what Rare Disease Hawaii helps with, is obtaining accurate diagnosis, limited treatment options, so helping to find treatment options that are viable for you, and gaining access to treatments that do exist in those that may not. And having financial struggles related to the cost of treatments, access to medical foods, genetic discriminations, reimbursement issues with insurance companies, and especially related to off-label, off-island occurrences and financial burdens that one have to go through. Now that we do have the Hope Lodge, let me talk about that for a quick second to help. It's in the Queens medical area near the Queens Medical Center, and they are helping those in Inner Islands with issues of where to stay when they're dealing with rare disease or surgery they got to deal with. And Rare Disease Hawaii does have a support group, and it's called Rare Disease Hawaii. We meet at the State Library down on Punch Bowl every first and third Saturday, 1 to 2 o'clock. So this is about Rare Disease Hawaii you're seeing now. It's Ohana for the rare disease community, and we like to think together we are one. So getting back to rare disease, we're going to celebrate this year's Rare Disease Day 2017 at the Hawaii State Capitol Rotunda, Friday, February the 24th from 10 to 12. And we're going to make it into an awareness fair. We're very excited about it, Dr. Larry, and let me tell you, we're going to have booths. We're going to have great people show up. And we're going to have schools involved. John A. Burns pre-med epidemiology class is going to be there. We're looking forward to seeing the same people from last year, Malleola, Life Foundation, ACS, ALS, and also the newborn testing program, and many other schools and speakers and doctors to join us and speak on that day. We'll be dedicating Rare Disease Day that day through National Organization of Rare Disease, who is going to help sponsor the event. But we are having help through Senator Josh Green, mahalo nui loa to him, and the collaboration with Brickwood Galateria, Senator Brickwood Galateria, to join in to make this day happen. And we appreciate Governor Ige's concern for rare disease also by proclamating a Rare Disease Day. So mahalo to all those involved and that care about rare disease and that will help us work toward a rare disease mandate to create a rare disease advisory board that is voluntary, meets just 3 times a year. But what are we doing? We're helping the legislatures and the representatives know information when it pertains to a rare disease or any legislation that affects rare disease. We're giving them the needed information to help make the proper choices for legislation to pass or not pass to benefit those that do have a rare disease in the state of Hawaii. And there's a lot of them, believe me that. So we have today is our ESA, Emotional Support Dog. His name is Mr. Booty, and we want to show him today. Hello. And what is a ESA, Emotional Support Dog? That is a emotional support companion that is with a person dealing with a disability that helps them benefit their disability. You can only have one if you are certified and it's validated through a doctor. You can register your dog at usserviceanimal.org to have your service dog nationally registered. And he is a great support dog because he loves to cuddle. He's a third adoption from the Humane Society. And once that I realized that he did take commands, and I am a rare disease survivor of pheochromocytoma. I do have information, and I'd be happy to tell you about my pheo. It's a rare disease that's a neurological disorder, and it's been known to, you didn't know this, but those men that are diagnosed with it have been known to use that diagnosis to not be committed of a crime. They've been known to get off of death row for having pheochromocytoma because it overtakes your adrenaline gland with a cancerous tumor. It causes fight-to-flight syndrome. It gives paraganglias, which are floating tumors, which usually go to the brain. So I could really seriously only be cured at NIH because the procedure that Queens Medical Center would have used had been a procedure to take it out of my belly button, which hadn't been used since the 60s. So that would only give me a 50-50 chance of cutting my carotid artery. So they had been doing all the new procedures and a new protocol under Dr. Pascal with NIH. So I was able to live and be saved, and it was very rare that I did not have the floating tumor. So if you need to talk about your rare disease or you have issues to deal with where you want to get answers, come to our rare disease support groups every first and third Saturday at the State Library. Now we're going to deal advocate to doctor with Dr. Larry. welcome.
Good. Thank you.
Yes. So we want to talk holistic healing. What is holistic healing?
Well, holistic healing refers to the concept that we are all one. A lot of people don't realize that the word health and healing are derived from the word whole, to become whole. So, for example, you cut yourself, it heals by becoming whole.
Right.
So essentially, health and healing is about becoming whole, becoming one again. And we apply that in a narrow sense of the physical body, but it can also be expanded to include the view for the whole world, the universe for that matter too. The holistic viewpoint is all-encompassing, and it recognizes that there's just one universe, and even the word universe literally means uni, one verse, in other words, one whole, and recognizing that we're all part of this universe. We're not separate entities within a universe, because outside the universe nothing exists. We're all part of it. And so it encourages people to view one another as you would view your left hand or your right hand.
Wow.
In other words, not separate from you, but part of you, one with you. And as a consequence, there's no conflict possible with your own hands, because you recognize that it's part of this whole oneness, yeah?
So how do the neuropathic part of it
the reason
enter it?
problems come up, including diseases, is because there's something that's blocking this perception or awareness of this wholeness. In holistic medicine, which includes Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic and the Indians' method of medicine, we recognize that there's something blocking the way, and that if this blockage is released, if the energy that's stuck can flow once again, there's no such thing as disease. And so then,
I know when it comes to like feelings, when I'm depressed, it blocks my creativity, and
exactly,
I know it.
yeah. So from a holistic standpoint, it's not just physical symptoms that we're looking at, but also the emotional aspect, the mental aspect, and ultimately the spiritual aspect of who we are as human beings. You know, like I like to tell people, we're more than just a bag of flesh and bones. You know,
Right.
we have feelings, we have emotions, we have thoughts, and we have the spiritual aspect that encompasses everything. And this is a physical manifestation of the spiritual self that we are. And so every healing then is oriented towards releasing, towards freeing up, so that we can be in the flow. You know, I've heard of people being in the flow, being in the zone, where everything just kind of works. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to work at it. It just happens. You know, you're just in the flow, and life moves as it should.
Oh, so what would you do, say a person came to you for the first time, the first visit, and they said, well, I'm dealing with a rare disease, and I don't know what's happening to me. I keep getting these symptoms. I can't get a diagnosis.
Right.
What would you do?
Well, the first thing I would encourage the person to do is to not get too attached to the label of the disease, because that tends to fixate things. It forms, and we want to get out of the form more into the spiritual aspect of existence. So putting a label on it from the standpoint of the ego, it seems like, okay, now I understand what it is, but in fact it's an illusion. And it in a way, it gets in the way of the healing by focusing on that label. So I encourage people to, basically the concept is, what if what you believe about yourself is not true? What if there's more to what you believe than what you hold on to right now? So the first order of business is to help people loosen up fixations on form, whether it's physical form of the body, or forms in terms of labels and names of things, or forms in terms of diagnosis, whatever, yeah? Because that gets in the way. Healing, true healing, doesn't care about the name of something. It just wants to free up wherever it's stuck. You know, whether it's stuck in a physical stuckness, for example, there's a fracture in a bone or something like that, and it needs to be realigned and put back together the way it's supposed to be so that things can function again. Or if it's an emotional stuckness or fracture, people have heart breaks.
Right.
It's not that your heart actually breaks, but we use that as a metaphor for an emotional trauma or something that caused us to all of a sudden make a big zag in our life instead of being in the flow. Yeah. So the first order of business, help people to loosen up, to open up to the possibility that they are not who they think they are, and that things may be different than what they've been holding on to. And then I'm curious about you physically. In other words, what are the physical symptoms that you're exhibiting? Body temperature, blood pressure, sore spots, bumps, lumps, whatever, yeah? I'm interested in you mentally and emotionally as well. In other words, what are the prevalent beliefs that you hold to that may be guiding your life that may not be serving you? Because I've met so many people who are holding out to beliefs that cause them to withdraw or hold back, which then causes a blockage in the flow, which then manifests as a disease. The ultimate blockage often leads to things like cancers, for example.
So how would you help someone, say they've got ALS or say Huntington's disease, where they're losing their control of their muscular functions?
Right.
How would you holistically deal with somebody like that?
Well, there's a metabolic dysfunction, even on a genetic level. I remind people that even so-called genetic diseases, and you mentioned in your introduction about the majority of rare disease is genetic based, it's genetic code. And code just means information. Like words is code we use to communicate, yeah? And computers, it's zeros and ones, that are the code that are used to communicate. Well, the genetics is the same thing too. There's just 4 pieces of the genetic code that make up all the information, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, predispositions, personality tendencies as well. And so
are you aligning
it's all,
the code?
The whole point is that even if it's called genetic, it's still not immutable. It can be changed. There's nothing, fixed in concrete where it says you cannot change it. Now, one obvious way we know that there's certain substances that cause a genetic disturbance and trigger cancers, for example. Yeah, they mess up the genetic code. Certain radiations like X-ray, too much ultraviolet, gamma radiations can also trigger changes in the code, which then manifests as changes in the body. So it's changeable, and there's a whole field called epigenetics too, that aside from the stuff that you inherited, these are genes that are sitting there that are triggered, either turned on or turned off by certain experiences, events in life that we may go through. All right? So it is very dynamic, very flexible, very moldable, and it's all controlled within mostly the subconscious or unconscious mind. If you can reach down there to the unconscious mind, you can make all kinds of things happen that otherwise would seem like impossible to do.
And control your own system in a way.
Control your own system.
And align it
Yeah.
in a way. Yeah.
So when I ask people to consider that what they believe may not be true, I'm basically asking them to get out of their own way.
Right?
That's the bottom line.
A lot of
Allow
people are
yourself
in their
to get
own
out of
way.
your own way and just see, be more trusting. Allow faith to come through, because we know faith healing is a real thing if you have faith. If you trust completely that something is possible, then you create that possibility.
And see, in a small way, NIH does that. They do holistic healing. And I would like to suggest that more doctors in Hawaii do this. It's called resting tests or resting labs where a person is made to lie down and rest for at least 5 to 10 minutes before taking a lab, before doing a blood pressure test, so they can get what they feel is the true measure. Because,
Yes.
yeah.
And that's what I do with my patients. For example, when I do take their blood pressure, I combine it with a stress test. I have the client lie down on the table, rest for several minutes until the blood pressure is stabilized. Then I take their blood pressure, and then after I noted the blood pressure and release the cuff, then I take it one more time, and I ask them to stand up. And then I see the different blood pressures. In a healthy individual, I see a slight rise between 2 and 6 points, both the systolic and diastolic. And the heart rate usually can increase up to about 10 points. And that is the healthy, normal stress test response. But if somebody is been under stress for a long time and is becoming what I call reactive, then they stand up and the blood pressure just shoots up 15, 20 points, trying to overcompensate. How many times
have you laid down, got up too quick and went, woo?
Well, that's the opposite thing. When it's been stressed for so long that they start exhibiting what's called stress burnout or adrenal exhaustion, then they stand up and everything crashes. The numbers go down instead of going up slightly. And so then that alone can give me a lot of information about the person too, and I know, okay, you need adrenal support, for example.
Right.
Among other
So
things,
let me mention this at the end. Holistic foods. National Organization of Rare Disease, who started Rare Disease Day in 2009 after 2008 European Organization of Rare Disease started Rare Disease Day. Now it's global. They gave Hawaii a test and grade on what we do best as far as state policies. So with medical food coverage, we got an excellent. With newborn screening, we had a good. With a Medicaid and Quest programs, we got good. But in regards to prescription drug cost coverage, we got it insufficient. So we really need to work on those, and having private-owned state hospitals, we'll see if Kaiser is going to really work with people in regards to that on those islands and in those areas. But what do you think when it comes to medical foods in Hawaii?
Well, every great holistic system, including the Chinese and Indian Ayurveda, all talk about food as medicine. And in the naturopathic tradition that I am trained in, the same thing applies as well. We recognize that there's certain foods have certain qualities, like there's hot, spicy foods, there's cooling foods, there's damp foods, there's dry foods. So every food has its own properties, and if you analyze a person and discover what is lacking, what is deficient, what is out of balance, then you can take that food and prescribe it, for their benefit. As a matter of fact, there's actually been, I've seen some Chinese restaurants, not here, but elsewhere, where they actually have that offer. The chef can see, okay, you need, to bring up your heat, so give some ginger or something like that, to warm things up again, and it actually helps. Food is essential for your well-being.
And knowing the right foods to take is what's essential too.
Food is important, as is ability to digest it, to absorb it, to utilize it, and eliminate waste. So all of that has to be taken as all part of the holistic view and practice.
So never any processed food, never any refined sugars.
One of my friends, Terry Shintani, did a study in the Waianae diet. He took a bunch of native Hawaiians over there who were living on the typical American processed food, McDonald's and so on diets.
What they could afford,
Put them on a traditional Hawaiian diet, and all of a sudden blood pressures improve, gout improve, arthritis improve, weight comes out.
Coconut milk lowers the blood pressure every time.
Several months later, dramatic improvements. Then they go off the study, they go back to the old ways, everything comes right back again. So it's so obvious, but it's a matter of education. It's a matter of access to the proper resources as well, sure.
So now that we're coming to the end of our show, I want to ask you the most important thing. What does rare mean to you?
It just means I haven't seen it as much as others. But in and of itself, I don't distinguish between rare or common disease. It's just something is out of balance, something is interfering, getting in the way of the flow of energy, and my job is to help find that and help the person release and be back in the flow of health again.
That's great.
Yeah.
And if you want to get back into the flow, Dr. Larry is your guy, and we'll be giving his information at the end of the show to let you know how to contact him to figure out how to create a better flow for you and a better healing the neuropathic way. And we are going to deal with rare disease, and in that regards, I want to say mahalo for watching today. Please contact me, and know you're more than welcome to come down on Friday, February the 24th from 10 to noon at Rare Disease Day at the Hawaii State Capitol Rotunda. And we'll have a lot of information for you. And if you need help or you're looking for any information, please contact me, RareDiseaseHawaii@gmail.com, or look me up on Facebook, Rare Disease Hawaii. And stay in touch and come to our support groups every first and third Saturday from 1 to 2 at the Hawaii State Library. And we look forward to seeing you at Rare Disease Day at the Hawaii State Capitol. If you want to volunteer, if you want to give information, if you would like to add a booth, please contact me. I'm always looking for more people, and there's nothing wrong with support, because the rare disease group, if you don't know, you're a part of it. So thank you, mahalo nui loa, and thank you, Dr. Larry, for being here.
Thank you, Sky.
And thank you to Service Dog Booty. All right, the ESA doggy. Okay.